My life, like today's test drive, is remarkably average. And what I mean by that is if you take the highs and you take the lows, you end up with, well, an average. It's pretty average. The problem is the highs are often dizzying highs and the lows are, well, in this case, flaming lows. And one of the lows is my interior camera that I use to record these polls crapped out roughly 10 seconds before all of that happened. There was smoke, there was flames, there was going sideways, and it missed it all. As you can see, I'm charging the capacitors and we're getting ready to go, and nothing. Yeah, that's right, nothing. So before we get on to that, let's take a quick look at the car, because there actually has been a lot done, as you can tell. Maybe it's a little shinier under the hood. I got rid of, if you recall at the dyno session, we had a smoke issue, and that actually I thought was a rear main seal, but as it turns out, it really wasn't a rear main seal. It was the valve cover, the driver's side valve cover specifically, was leaking. Relatively an easy fix, but I figured this was a good opportunity to, you know, dress up the valve covers a little bit. And so I got these, but I got these for a reason. One, I want to use what started this whole electric turbo mess was that little Volkswagen turbo that I turned into a crankcase evacuation pump. It's about time we installed it. So towards that end, that's what this black hose here does with this fitting, except right now it just goes to a breather. It really doesn't go anywhere, but at least it's there. And by the way, dig the oil filler TIG work. Yeah, that's yours truly. That's why it looks like it was done by a blind monkey. However, and by the way, in my defense, my gas lens was, well, due for a replacement, let's put it that way. But it's my fault for not having any more on hand, so, you know, it's on me regardless. But, you know, at least it's not horrible. It didn't fall through or anything. It's there. It actually looks kind of like somebody tried to take it at some point, so, you know, whatever. It is what it is. Anyway, moving on. So this is all nice and dressed up. Isn't it lovely? And look, we've got that 90mm throttle body sitting there. Everything's fantastic, and you know, there's the big motor. Let me see if I can get a light on that thing. You know, there's the big motor with the cooling jacket on it. Of course, there's no water cooling on it yet, but that's okay. As it turns out, it didn't run long enough to need any sort of cooling. But, you know, there's a few other tricks that I did. And somebody made a wisecrack comment on one of the videos and said, well, why are you putting power steering in a race car? Does it even have power windows? Dude, not only does it have power windows, check this out. Power trunk release, baby. All right, so let's go back here. Show you some of the other coolness. If you've been a fan of my channel or followed me for a long time, you will notice that I had a video about a supercapacitor. Well, I finally decided to put it in. The old Honda battery in that battery box is getting a little weak. And, you know, my tune wasn't great. It wasn't real snappy on startup, especially a sort of warm start. So I figured out, you know, I was watching the voltage gauge, it would drop down to 8.4 volts. So clearly there's a voltage drop issue. So it was time to put in the supercapacitor. Now this is just kind of hacked in with these gigantic zip ties left over by the guys who put in my heat pump. They kindly left like a pack of 30 of those monsters here. So who am I to say no, right? Anyway, so this thing now is going through a starter solenoid, and it gives it a jump when it starts. And of course, I changed the tune to pull some fuel out because I thought that was also an issue. As it turns out, on my way back from our flaming sideways experience, she wouldn't start so great in the gas station. Well, eventually I did get it started and I did get it home. You know, I didn't have to jump it or anything. But now you're looking at the world's first self-jump-starting car, I guess. It can literally jump-start itself off of a basically dead battery. And I'll explain that another time. In fact, I'll go around front here. If you look here, right next to the fire extinguisher, because I'm not entirely stupid, is this little toggle switch. You can probably hear it when I push it. Let's see. Oh, back here. And all that does is connect the supercapacitor into the battery, basically. So when you crank, you've got more voltage. Again, at the gas station, didn't work out that great. Something's up with it, but you know, at least it's temporarily installed, and that's another side project. I think it's a pretty cool trick. So let me explain to you guys what happened. So I charged up the capacitors as you saw in the video, and everything was good to go. I saw the voltage go up. Obviously, we're running the double 16S packs there, but it's still 16S. That's all it is. Just gives us a little bit more current capacity. But they were charged up through the switch. Everything was great. Hit the button, and the car went sideways. Like sideways. I was just getting ready to lift. In fact, I did lift when at the same time something bad happened up front. I could tell something bad happened because my little servo testers here, when they're on just normally, that's what they do when they boot up, and then they just default to those two blue LEDs. Well, all the LEDs lit up, and then it went mysteriously dark. And nothing in here really went wrong. Everything here was fine. You know, I could tell something was up though, because, you know, our current, the highest current I saw on the current display on the ammeter here was, I think, 210 amps. But of course, that was after I had already lifted and it should have been off. My hand was off the button and everything else. So something was drawing power and I didn't know what. So, you know, one of the first things I did was I killed the servo testers. Then I threw the big main switch just to shut that off, killed the entire circuit. But at that point we could smell something was acridly toasty, shall we say? Well, let me get this. We're gonna need this light. So, yeah, something was done. Well, I've already had a sneak peek at the data log, which is, by the way, the only proof I have that this actually happened, which is a little bit aggravating, let's be honest. Perhaps the best thing to do is to, and I've already had a little bit of a peek. Let's see if we can figure this out. Let's see. Okay, we know something's up because I'm not sure if you can see that's supposed to be flat black. It's sort of got this cloudiness to it. That's not good. Now, I'm hoping the motor is okay because I have a sneaking suspicion that really what went bad here was the ESC. And that is supported by the crunchy, burnt, fried remains of the ESC down there. You can see some of the heatsink poking out there. I mean, this thing let go pretty violently, by the looks of it. She ain't pretty, that's for sure. So let me go ahead and take this out, and let's take a look. Oh, by the way, I found something else that's pretty cool. Let me set up the GoPro. Let me suction cup it to the hood here so you can see. And let's take this thing apart. Since I was cleaning off the area under the hood to give the suction cup for the GoPro a place to stick to, I was reminded of something. Why I'm doing this in the first place. Because you see, it's kind of hard to see here, but there's a dent right here. And that is what happens when you throw a blower belt at about 800 horsepower. Proof? Check that out. Nasty. It did it twice. It threw the belt precisely twice and did this much damage, but wait, it wasn't done. Somehow, even though our electric vortex or turbo is right there now, it managed to get the belt underneath the fender apron and do that. Looks like a bullwhip struck the fender from the inside, doesn't it? That one still mystifies me, but that's another reason to get this thing going. All right, I wanted to give you all a little look of what it looks like down here. If you remember, I invested a small fortune in low ESR, really high quality capacitors to stabilize the power coming into the ESC right at the ESC. So we know that's not an issue. You know, these are the real deal. They cost me more than any capacitors I've ever bought in my life. And I foolishly once bought Mundorf coupling capacitors for one of my tube amps, only to find out that the 69-cent Sprague orange drops actually sounded better. But these are the real deal, inexpensive, so protecting it. But look at that. Let me see if I can get my arm in a place where I'm not blocking the light. That is pretty destructive. All right, so let's take this thing apart. Let's take it out, and I gotta say, this one's more impressive than the last one. I think fire was definitely involved here. mean, what's there to say about this? Like, for real. By the way, excuse the draggy in the shot. We're going to have some fun with that. If you don't know what it is, you will soon enough. This is a fitting for my crankcase evacuation, which the electric turbo kind of has taken up residence in the corner of the desk here. Yeah, excuse all that junk. But, I mean, wow. Now, that's a fire. This is like, are you serious? Wow. I mean, look, there was only one zip tie left holding it on, and you can tell that this thing had been on fire for a little while because this one started to melt too, and this is the one that was located down at the end. She's a bit crispy. Yeah, that is a smell that kind of lingers, but geez, look at this. This is unbelievable. I mean, it burnt through pretty much most of this heat shrink they sleeve these things in. Let's see if I can just... let's not be stupid about this. Especially since we have an X-Acto knife at hand. Alright. Oh, it's just throwing parts like a leper on a trampoline. Jeez. By the way, I can't take credit for that expression. I read that in a article about 20 or 30 years ago where somebody was describing the Crandon Good Old Boys race, and for some reason the expression stuck with me. But damn, look at this. It's all a little crusty. I mean, the reason why the servos went bad was because this is the USB connector, and, you know, she's a little, I don't know, blackened, let's just say. And, yeah, these two are kind of welded together right here. I don't know, man. I mean, I'm going to contact Flyer. They do make an 800 amp ESC. I think that's the biggest one they've got. And I'm going to see if they're going to, once again, stand by their product. Because this one blew in less than a second. And the only functional difference was maybe 2 more volts because of the, you know, a couple more volts. But we're still at 16S at the pack. And the other motor. That's the only difference. And I did some, and there's nothing wrong with the motor. I just went and measured the resistance across all 3 phases. They're all they're consistently low, but they're consistent. You know, and as we'll see on the data log, we do know the motor works. But this is let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, isn't that lovely? So I think it's safe to say that what's sprayed all over there is, oh my God. What's sprayed all over is solder. Look, here's pieces of a MOSFET. And part of it's still holding on. Just barely. Let's see if the other side will come up. Oh, yeah. Oh, just fried, man. Oh, look, you can see right through the circuit board. I don't know if you can make that out, but hello. Right there. Maybe somewhere in there. Yeah. See my pale hand on the other side. Oh, wow. This is unbelievable. I mean, this was violent. This was, I mean, the holes are just, I should not be able to do this. Look at that. That is a hole, good friends. Wow. I mean, it's just crumbling to pieces. This is unreal. Unbelievable. I can't quite snap the board in half. There's still some integrity of the actual circuit board here. You know, right where there's a ton of molten solder. And oh, this smells awesome too, let me tell you. If I had a nickel for every... No, actually, I've never said that before. Oh, wow. These things are just... This is just a complete and total loss. So that's a heavyweight solder track for the power. This is just painful to see. So this is the microcontroller here. This is what basically controls the MOSFETs. So this is universal to all Flyer ESCs, I believe, at least the ones that I've seen. The other one that blew up, I took it apart and found the same thing. The other one, though, she wasn't like this. I can tell you that. Wow. Just wow. So, yeah, this is the bad news. But, you know, I did say that my life is average, and this was an average day. You know, the good news actually lives in the data log, oddly enough. So, I'm just going to keep picking at this here for a minute or two. I mean, I'm not expecting to find any great revelations. Clearly, she's not rebuildable, and this is not going to buff out. I don't know why I'm still playing with it, mainly because I know I've already got to wash my hands. So if I have to wash my hands anyway, might as well go to town with this hot mess. See what I did there? Wow. I mean, this side, it looks like we have part of a phase that's still kind of intact. So there's going to be MOSFETs for a bank of MOSFETs, however they're arranged on this thing, for each phase of the motor. So it's going to be groups, 3 groups of whatever that is. And man, these pins are just totally blown off. They're just missing. Same here. These are missing completely. This is just non-existent here. You know, I mean, I really should put the zoom lens on, but then again, I wouldn't want to be touching the camera with these paws anyway. But man, these things are just completely obliterated. I've never seen a circuit board this destroyed. I mean, that's just wow. Wow. Well, let's go get that good news. Let's go look at the data log. All right, ladies and germs. So here's the good news. The good news is we made more boost than we've ever made before, even with the towering inferno behind me. Look, we check it out. 4.8 psi. That's what we saw. And the red line here is the boost curve. And, you know, from the point where I hit it to the point where she failed was less than 3/4 of a second. You know, before our ramp up speed was roughly 3/4 to 0.8, 0.9 seconds. So we would have seen more boost than 4.8 psi. We probably would have seen anywhere from 5 to 5.2. And that is a record for us. So that's good news. Even 4.8 is a record for us. The most I've seen up till now, I believe, is 4.2, I think. But this thing came on strong, like real strong. The tires lit up. The car went sideways. You know, the green line here is my throttle position, and you see I lift and get back in it. You know, when a car's going sideways, a lot of people just tend to stay in it, but the real secret is when it goes too far sideways, and if you insist on staying in it, you're eventually going to be facing the wrong way. I think bad things are going to happen. To straighten the car out, all you got to do is lift. Just lift, people. You know, those guys walking around with t-shirts that say never lift. Notice how they're never, you know, over like 20, 25 years old. There's a reason for that. It's called natural selection. So, yeah, there is a time to lift, and this was that time. In fact, from the time that the boost dropped off to the time that I lifted, so the failure was pretty fast. I mean, it was almost like there was braking involved because it was like less than half a second. So from the point where the impeller stopped to the point where I completely lifted was 0.681 seconds, less than 3/4 of a second. So this all happened pretty quick. And shortly after that, I looked at the gauge. That's where I saw 210 amps. Well, I saw something lower figure, and then I noticed it was going up. And I noticed the servo testers were all weird looking. Something wasn't right. So immediately I killed the power. So that's why there probably isn't any damage to the motor. And you saw what was, taking the brunt of it. That ESC is just utter toast. So anyway, so there we are. We actually would have made considerably more power. There's still plenty of tuning to do. That we can do with the setup. So, we now have an idea. Now, granted, it was cold outside today. I'm not going to lie. I mean, this is January 21st. So it was just a bit below freezing. I'd say about 27, 28 degrees, which is, like minus a couple degrees Celsius for those of you who are... Well, actually, I find the metric system easier to use, but I'm just so used to imperial that it just works with me. But I'm not going to make any comments. I don't take any sides in that particular fight. So there you go. So we made more power than we ever have. That's exciting. Now, of course, we got to get a ESC that'll hold up. And I do think that 6 PSI is definitely possible out of this beast. And on the trans brake, that may be close to 7 pounds. So we might be seeing 7 pounds on the leave, which is going to be dangerously close to where it was with the Whipple in terms of power, believe it or not. In fact, area under the curve may actually be a little bit more. But the best thing is the car is lighter. So are 9s possible? I'm going to say if everything can hold together, yeah, they're going to be possible. At the very least, mid-10s, low 10s, certainly. I remember at 443 rear-wheel horsepower, the car went like 10.5s, 10.6s at like 127 and change. So we're within 10 pounds we're within 10 horsepower of that already, and the car is considerably lighter. So we're probably right in that ballpark as it was before. So now, we're sneaking up on the 9s. Hypothetically, but that's one of the reasons why the draggy's there, because as you saw, as you all know, with COVID and everything else, I don't know when tracks are going to be open again, particularly around me. And so we're going to have to do what we can do to get the data we need to, prove a point. And I'm starting to honestly think that the Whipple may not actually find its way back onto the car. At some point, I'm probably going to do a future video where we have a come to Jesus conversation, you and I. And I'm going to ask for your input. In fact, you can sort of be a little bit proactive if you're still watching this video at this point. And let me know what you think. I mean, do we continue pursuing this? Let's be real. We all know if I put a good size single or twins on this thing, we're going to be seeing well over 1,000 horsepower. I've said it before, the drivetrain, the engine, they can all handle it. But, this is cool. This is different. And if we can go faster than I have the safety equipment for, then, that's fast enough for me for this. That doesn't mean that we're not going to ultimately build a much bigger unit, but we're going to put it on something else. We're going to put it on something with a full, 10-point cage and everything else, because I don't want to die. I mean, I did bring the fire extinguisher along for a reason, and I almost needed it. I mean, that was on fire. So there you have it. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe, because there's going to be more to come, obviously. And stay tuned. Thanks for watching.